Hello and welcome back to Dirty Boots Capital. Today we're going to be talking about real estate and how do you get into real estate? A lot of folks are asking themselves that these days because they see there's money to be made. And there certainly is. They are correct. So I wanted to do this because I was out to dinner this weekend with a couple of friends of mine, and they have some relatively young kids. They're already working and whatnot, and so they were talking about real estate and helping them get into the real estate game. So there were a lot of good questions they had, and I'm sure a lot of you have those questions as well. So I wanted to put this together to try to help as many people out there as I possibly can to protect their personal and financial freedoms. And like I said, real estate is a great way to do that. So let's dive right in. So, with real estate, there are many directions you can go into, right? You can purchase a single family home that you want to rent out. You can purchase a condo, a duplex, a fourplex. A fourplex would have four apartments in the building. You could purchase even a large scale building, right, with 50 units, right? It all depends on what your goals are and how much money you have to invest in that, right? So there's a lot of different real estate property types you can invest in, right? So that's the first thing to understand. First and foremost, what I try to understand with folks is trying to understand what their goals are, right? So important to understand goals when you first get into this. Now, what do I mean by that? Understanding your goals. So let's talk about what are your short-term goals versus your long-term goals, right? Is this a property that you plan on holding for only 5 years? Or is this going to be part of your retirement plan, right? Where you're going to hold it for the next 30 years. Okay. Then also, what is your goal in terms of cash flowing? Do you want to only make, $200 a month? Would that be acceptable to you? Or are you looking for something more? Do you need to make $1,000 a month as part of your goal? So where does cash flow play into this, right? How much do you need to make it worth it for you to get into buying a property, right? You also need to take a look at your goals in terms of your own personal situation, right? My situation is different than yours, is different than the friends I was having dinner with this weekend. So what's your goal for liquidity? Do you need that asset to be highly liquid? Or do you need it to just cash flow for you and you don't really care that it potentially could take you, if you had to sell it, that it could take you 6 months to sell it, right? So that's what I mean by liquidity. So in terms of a single family home or a condo, those are much more liquid because many people are looking to purchase those than say a multifamily with 4, 5, 6 units, right? There might be in any particular time less buyers looking for multifamily as opposed to somebody looking to buy a condo or a single family home, right? So it all depends on where you stand on the liquidity needs and wants for when you go into real estate. It's important to understand, be willing and able to do some value add to the property. Now, what do I mean by that, right? Value add could be installing a new kitchen, installing new floors, replacing decking, right? It's something you're going to do or your contractors are going to do to add value to the property. Where do you stand on that? Is it something you want to contribute? Is that part of your goal, is to bring some of your expertise into making the property more beautiful and more valuable? Maybe you're a painter, maybe you're a contractor, maybe you have different experience from doing some remodeling on your own primary residence and you want to take that a step further and do it on a rental property. That's perfectly fine, right? So where do you stand with doing a value add project? What is your goal for appreciation, right? Are you looking for this property to appreciate over time? If it does, great. But if it doesn't, and all it does is cash flow, is that okay? Are you going to be happy with that? So you need to understand where that falls within your goal system. And then, what about your goal or your strategy around property management? What do you want, right? Do you want tenants calling you to do some repairs, or do you want all that to go to a property manager, right? There's no wrong or right answer to any of this. It's all on how you think, right? What is your situation? Typically I go into a deep dive on creating your team for this real estate investment, right? Because having a good team around you is so important, right? It goes beyond just having an agent that's going to help you buy the property, okay? And the agent is incredibly valuable, and you need to choose your agent carefully as well, because some agents are solely geared towards helping people find a home. They're not all created equal in terms of some agents are better suited to find investors investment property. Okay. So they have better lenders, they have better appraisers, they just understand that process of buying investment properties better than, say, an agent who is solely looking to put a family into a single family home, right? Different set of tools in the toolbox. So pick your agent carefully, make sure they understand the investor's mentality and how we think and what we need to close a deal. Okay, so that's a person on your team. You're also going to want to make sure you have a good attorney, because that goes into, let's talk a little bit about how are you going to purchase the property? Are you purchasing it into your name, or are you purchasing it into an LLC, a limited liability company that may offer you a certain amount of protection, right, against lawsuit or liabilities? Okay, so having a good attorney that can help you navigate through that conversation is incredibly important. And again, not all attorneys are created equal. Some are better at this than others. So make sure you find a good real estate attorney. Your lender, right? Your bank, your credit union, whoever you're going to go get funds from, again, make sure that they are seasoned in terms of working with investors, and that they understand if you're buying this into your own name or if you're buying it into an LLC. Because now, once you make that distinction, the lending process goes in a slightly different process, because now buying it into an LLC becomes a commercial loan, and there's different requirements. So it's important to have a lender that understands, again, the investor mentality of how we think and what we do in the business. And moving on to the next, you're also going to want to make sure you have a good CPA, certified public accountant. Okay. They will help you on many things. Okay. So they can help you at the end of the year with your taxes, do your tax paperwork for your return, in terms of helping you create 1099s for your contractors that you used throughout the year. Currently, any contractor that you pay more than $600 for them to do work, you need to submit a 1099 to them and also to the IRS. So you want to make sure that's done all in the right way, obviously, with the right timing, right? There's certain deadline dates when you need to submit your 1099s to your contractors and also get them into the IRS. So you got to be mindful of all that stuff. I leave it up to my CPA. He's the expert. I'm the expert on investing in real estate. He's the expert in dealing with the IRS and those documents and making sure everything is done in a timely fashion. So I rely on him. He's part of my team. And I suggest getting a good CPA, again, one that understands investment properties. Okay. They can also help you with, as you get a little more sophisticated with real estate investing, they can also help you with doing a cost segregation study where you pull depreciation in to the current year so that you can reduce your tax basis. Part of your team needs to be a property manager. Chances are you're not going to do it all yourself. Even though you might want to be a very active investor and fix a clogged sink or fix a leaky roof, whatever you want to do. But there are going to be those times where you are on vacation or you're stuck at work and you can't get there to fix a sink that's leaking or a toilet that's overflowing or whatever the issue is. You are going to want to have a property manager or at least a property maintenance person as part of your team to help support you with anything you either can't do or you don't want to do. Okay. Right. That takes some of the stress out of owning real estate investment property, because I found over the years, one of the major reasons people don't use this tool, the owning real estate investment property, the reason why they don't use it is because they're afraid of getting calls in the middle of the night and things they don't want to fix. They're afraid to fix. It's going to cost too much. All the reasons, or excuses come up. And once you have somebody who does property maintenance on your team, so much of that just goes away and it becomes much more relaxed in terms of investing in real estate. Okay. On your team, you'll probably want a leasing agent to help with getting your apartments rented. You may not want to be the person to schedule 10 showings in an afternoon and be there for 3 hours showing the apartment, right? You have a life. You probably have kids who are playing sports, or you're traveling, or you're doing things that you like. You probably don't want to spend your Saturday afternoon showing the apartment for 3 hours to prospective applicants, right? So you'll want to team with somebody who's a good leasing agent specifically for apartments. Again, leasing agents, are not necessarily synonymous with real estate agents. Leasing agents typically have more experience with contracts, right? Lease agreements, lead-based paint laws. Just they have a better tool set dealing with tenants. And then the last part of your team that I would bring up would be having some good contractors on your team. Now, this all goes into your goals in terms of how much you want to do on the property or how little you want to do with the property. Maybe you want to just hand all the construction related stuff or all the mechanical related stuff off to a property maintenance person or a property manager, and that's perfectly fine. But what I found has helped me reduce my stress level is to have at least 3 contractors on my team. The first one is have a good plumber, right? Because you never know when there might be a leak or a backup, and you're going to need to call somebody real quick if your property maintenance person can't get there. Have a good plumber on your team. Second one, a good electrician, right? Again, same type of issues. If you have, just recently, I had a light that was in a stairwell of a tenant's apartment. She was an elderly lady, and she called me. She said, "Hey, my light is out on my stairwell, and the last thing I would want is for her to obviously fall, hurt herself on the stairwell." So I didn't go through my maintenance guy. I called my electrician, and he went there right away to fix the issue. So having him on my team is incredibly valuable. And then the third thing is just having a general handyman on your team is very valuable, because he can go in there and help with the turnovers. When somebody moves out, your handyman can go in there. He can paint, he can clean, he can redo a floor, he can redo a kitchen, he can replace a toilet or a vanity. There's so many things a handyman can help you with. And again, it's all aimed at reducing the stress level of owning rental property. Okay. So having a good team in place is very important. Okay. Next, I'm going to go into funding. That's the next big title here. Having a good lender is critical, but also going along with that is understanding where your down payment is coming from to fund the deal. Okay. So a lot of people fund their real estate purchase using cash that they have on hand that they've been saving, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Other people refinance their primary residence to be able to get the cash they need for the down payment. Other people might use just a HELOC rather than refinance their home entirely. They just use a home equity line of credit to pull equity out of their primary residence to apply towards the down payment on the rental property. Other people use the cash value of their insurance policy, right? If they have an insurance policy, like a life insurance policy, and they have a cash value balance to that life insurance policy, they can borrow against that to be able to get the cash they would need, or at least part of the cash they would need to be able to purchase real estate. Okay. Other people might use their 401k. You can borrow, in most cases, from your 401k to get the down payment you need. Okay. Other areas might be, you could always use hard money lenders to help you with a down payment. And then you could, and what that means, I'll go into a little bit. So all hard money lending means is, is they base the lending on a hard asset, typically the item that you're purchasing, right? The home, the condo, the multifamily, the land. That is the physical, they can touch that, right? That is the hard asset that exists. Okay. Sometimes folks think hard money lenders are people that are going to come out and they're hard lenders because they're going to come out and break your kneecaps or something if you don't pay, right? That's not it. It's really based on a hard asset that they can secure if you don't pay the loan back to them. Okay. And then one of the other options I like to mention is also seller financing. Okay. You can always ask the seller to provide the 20% or whatever it is you want to put down for the down payment on your rental property. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways to come up with the down payment. People always struggle with, I don't have the money. Well, you probably do in some way, shape, fashion, or another. You probably do have the money to buy it. You just gotta get a little creative sometimes, okay? And it gets easier over time. With the more properties you purchase, you invest, it gets easier. So that's the funding piece, okay? One of the things I want to mention is as you're looking for properties, right? And it doesn't matter. It could be a single family, it could be a condo or a multi-unit huge building, doesn't matter. I always advise people to invest for cash flow, not appreciation. Okay. We've been in a tremendous uh, upward spiraling market for a long time. And real estate's been appreciating at crazy numbers, which is great if you're already in the game. However, sometimes that can be scary facing into if you're just starting out, and this party might not continue forever here, right? So we got to be careful about looking at it and saying, I'm going to purchase something. It doesn't really cash flow, but that's okay. It's going to appreciate in the next year or 2 years or 3 years, and then I'll be able to sell it and make X number of dollars. That may be the case, right? But I don't ever like to bank on that. So if it happens, that's a bonus for me. Okay. But first and foremost, it needs to cash flow each and every month, because if the market doesn't go up and that house is no longer worth what I paid for it, that's okay. I'm still cash flowing. I'm still making money each and every month off that building. Okay, so it doesn't hurt me to hold on to it. Let me move on to the next area of where to buy a building, right? We've gone through identifying what your goals are personally, right? They're different for everybody. And that's where it becomes hard. You can't really follow any one particular person's strategy because yours is probably going to be different. So identify your goals, right? Identify your team, because when you have a good team in place, that's going to take a lot of stress off of you, and it's going to help you to scale this real estate investment into something bigger so that you have more personal and financial freedoms. Okay. We've talked about funding, where you can get your down payment from. I gave you a lot of different ideas. Okay. We talked about investing for cash flow, not appreciation, because when you do that, invest for cash flow, you're protecting yourself from any downside in the market. Now we're going to talk about where to buy. Okay. Hot markets typically stay hot markets, right? Should make sense. Businesses typically are going to move into markets that can support them, right? That have good jobs, good infrastructure around them, good schools, good colleges for trained workers, right? Good hospitals, right? Typically that creates a very good ecosystem, and as a result also a very good housing system that you might want to buy into. However, those can become extremely overpriced, okay? And your cash flow may not be as good as you need it to be. So what do? Do you stop looking? Absolutely not. Why don't you take a look at some secondary markets and some potentially tertiary markets, right? Markets that are within driving distance to that ecosystem and to those jobs and to those businesses, to those retail districts. So maybe they're a 20-minute or a 30-minute commute into those locations, right? As long as you have a good infrastructure, a good highway system around you, that should support the rental market in those second and tertiary markets. Also, when you're looking at those secondary and tertiary markets, also take a look at, beside the commute time, take a look at their school systems and also the services that they provide. Again, the hospitals and the retail centers. You want to make sure that you're not going to, so to speak, be on an island when you go into a secondary or tertiary market and not have schools and services and things like that, right? So make sure you have those. So once you've gone through that recipe, now it's time to buy. Execute your plan based on what your goals are, right? And what you can afford, right? And realize you're not alone. This is why you have a team around you to help you, to advise you, okay? Create that team up front, and that's going to take a lot of the stress away from this business. All right. So I hope these tips helped. I create this to help people out there, again, protect their personal and financial freedoms. I'm huge on that. I want to help people. I want to see people survive during the good times and the bad times. So if this video was something you enjoyed and you found helpful, please give us a like. That helps the algorithm on YouTube get this video out to many, many more people so we can help as many as we can. So please give us a like on the video. And if it's a topic you enjoyed, please subscribe to the station. We'll be doing more videos like this. Thank you.